Today I'm going to get into the topic of the Torah, the word testament, how Christians slip that word in there so that they can reject the oracles of Yehovah. But I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to answer it very quickly. And it's going to raise a whole bunch of questions among some of you who are watching this video and been watching my videos in the past. Do you have to be a Zionist to enter into the kingdom, as they say? The short answer is yes. But wait a minute, Henry. There are Orthodox Jews out there who are supposedly anti-Zionists. No, they're not. Their argument is that the Jews are supposed to wait until the Moshiach comes, and then he will establish Zionism. Well, they're partly right and partly wrong, because if they would have read Yoel 2, they would find out that that those who previously inhabited Yehuda and Jerusalem would be brought back first, and then the champion of Yehovah would descend. That is word for word in Hebrew, in Yoel 3. Word for word, but King James Version covered it up. That's right, word for word. I've gone over this several times before. If it's your first time, try to go find it using King James Version. That is the reason why you need to use a Bible help like Bible Hub using Strong's Concordance, because you will never find the truth with King James Version, ever. Now, to the subject at hand. In mainstream Christianity, the belief that the Old Testament law was nailed to the cross is supported by a Bible verse, Colossians 2 verse 14. Blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us. Does it say blotting out the ordinances? It says blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to the cross. Why was the handwriting of ordinances against them? Those of you who have taken music classes should understand this. Those of you who haven't, listen and learn. When you learn music exclusively by reading music, you play your piano by reading music, you play your trumpet or whatever it is that you do by reading musical notes exclusively, you are lost and blind without the music on sheets. You are lost and blind without it. As soon as it's taken away, you have no idea how to play your musical instrument. But if you learn it by ear, you learn to memorize. Now, well, that's something you've never heard anybody tell you. But those of you who understand music, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Christians have used The words that Paul wrote, twisted it around. They have used it as an excuse not to read anything in the Torah and the prophets at all. The Torah, or the teaching of the Torah, is the compilation of the first 5 books of Hebrew Bible, namely the book of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. In Christianity, the Torah is also known as, Pentateuch. I have never even tried to pronounce that word before. I don't know. I don't care about the Christian versions. Or the 5 books of Moshe, as not Moses, but Moshe. Okay. So they say, okay, so the Christians say the first 5 books. So what they will do is they will say the Torah is no longer relevant. All right. Where is it? If the Torah is no longer relevant, let me see. I'm going to expound on the written versus oral Torah. It's in Deuteronomy. It's a perfect example. And once again, it's in one of the books that the Christians say you don't need anymore. Deuteronomy 6, I believe it's right here. Verse 5. Let's go to Strong's Concordance, because his name is not the Lord. These are the commandments and the statutes and the judgments which, not the Lord, but Yehovah, learn that name. That name is salvation. Elohim, commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land where you go to possess it. Now, I find it interesting that you might do them in the land where you go to possess it. They did not have the 10 Commandments before that. That you might fear Yehovah Elohim, to keep all his statutes and his commandments, which I command you this day, and your sons and your sons' sons all the days of your life, that your days may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, that you may increase mightily in the land, as Yehovah Elohim of your fathers has promised you, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, not the Lord. Yehovah Elohim is one. He is not 2. He is not 3. I don't care what you Christians say. And this is another reason why you Christians reject the books of the Torah altogether. And you shall love Yehovah Elohim with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your might. Now, and these words which I command you to this day shall be in your heart. In your heart. And you shall teach them diligently to your children. Remember in band class, or if you take music lessons, when they say learn the song by heart, it just means through your ear, and not by sheet music, not by the written word. Because if you go exclusively by the written word, you will never, in music, you will never come to understanding the truth. You have to see it, listen to it, and do it and practice it in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently to your children. You shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and you shall bind them for a sign upon your head, and they shall be frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the post of your house and on your gates. Now, the Jews still do this in a little case with a scroll in it, and they put the Torah in there on their doors. I have it as well, with one exception. Theirs is on the outside, mine's on the inside. Mine is now in my suitcase, ready to leave to go to Israel. They have the Torah in it. Mine has Deuteronomy 30. Deuteronomy 30. Go read it. Now, so he says, it shall be in your heart. Shall be in your heart. I want you to remember that as I go through these scriptures, okay? Because I'm going to go to Yeremiah 31, verses 31 through 34. That explains everything. So Paul, in the book of Hebrews, he is speaking to who? Who's he speaking to? Is he speaking to Gentiles, or is he speaking to Jews? He's speaking to Jews because it's a book of Hebrews. And so he's telling them in Hebrews 5 and verse 12, of whom we have said had many things to say, and hard to be spoken, hard to be told, because you are dull of hearing. For when the time you ought to be teachers yourselves, you have need that one teach you again the first principles of the oracles of Yehovah. Well, what is that? The first principles and the oracles of Yehovah are, guess what? What the Christians call the Old Testament. He was telling these Hebrews that because you are dull of hearing and lazy, you ought to be teachers by now. You have need that one teach you again the first principles and the oracles of Yehovah, the Old Testament. He said it was necessary that that be taught to them again. Amazing. For everyone that uses milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But strong meat belongs to those who are of full age, those by reason of use, of practice, have their senses exercised to discern both what is right and what is wrong. We go to Romans 3. Verse 1, what advantage then has the Jew, and what profit is there of circumcision? The Gentile will immediately say none. Well, you're wrong. And Paul tells you you're wrong. He says, much in every way, mainly, or in the beginning, because to them were committed the oracles of Yehovah. And what if some of them did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of Yehovah without effect? Yehovah forbid. Let Yehovah be true, but let every man be a liar, as it is written, that you might be justified in your sayings, The oracles, and you might overcome when you are judged. So, to the Jew was committed the oracles of Yehovah. And that gives the Jew a clear advantage. What are the oracles of Yehovah? What the Christians deride, speak snidely of, the Old Testament. And you know what I find interesting? How they slip the word testament in there rather than covenant. Some of you will get it. Some of you are dull of hearing. Okay. So then let us go to Yeremiah 31. Verses 31 to 34. Behold, the days come, says Yehovah, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Yehuda. It is not possible to confuse that with the Gentiles, because the house of Israel were the northern tribes and the house of Yehuda were the southern tribes. It is not possible to mix this up with the Gentiles. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in that day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, which covenant they broke. So once a covenant is broken, the covenant is invalidated. But the covenant is not a testimony. A covenant is a contract between two or three or more entities. It's a contract. When one of them refuses to fulfill their end of the contract, that covenant is broken. And Yehovah's portion of the contract was to rule over in marriage. And that is something that you women don't understand today. These marriages that you have today, these modern marriages, are not marriages at all. They are a contract between the satanic state, you the wife, and the husband. Because the husband is supposed to, when he marries a woman, he's to rule over her. She is to be in subjection to him. That is what the word means. Baal, that's what it means. Unto them, says Yehovah. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. In the after part. That is after their tribulation. Deuteronomy 30. Read it carefully. The blessings and the cursings. And after the cursings, all Israel is going to remember and return to Yehovah in their hearts. And then he's going to cause them to return to the land of Israel. I think I'll go over that one too. After those days, I will put my Torah in their inward parts, in their heart. Just like we read, where was it? Here. Okay? In your heart. in your inner man, I will need to go to Deuteronomy 30 so that you will see it. And it shall come to pass, when all these things have come upon you, the blessing and the curse which I have set before you, and you call them to mind among the Gentiles, where Yehovah Elohim has driven you, you will return to Yehovah Elohim, not the Lord your God. Okay? And you shall obey his voice according to all I command you this day, you and your children, with all of your heart and with all of your soul. It's going to happen. It says Yehovah Elohim will turn your captivity and have compassion upon you, and he will return and gather you from all the Gentiles where Yehovah Elohim has scattered you. Okay? So we have this, what I'm teaching here, showing you here today, is for those who are not needing the milk of the word. This is the meat and potatoes of the truth. It is the same thing. It's the same thing that Yehovah required of the children of Israel in Deuteronomy 6, when he gave the commandments. And the first thing that he said, you shall love Yehovah Elohim with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your might, with all of your heart. But they broke that covenant. But they had the handwriting. They had the words. They played the music with the sheet music in front of them. But as soon as they went back home to their places, that was it. They forgot what they learned, and they broke his covenant. This shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days in the after part. I will put my Torah in their inward parts, in their heart. How is he going to do that? By a miracle. And write it in their hearts, and be their Elohim, and they shall be my people, and they shall no more every man his neighbor, every man his brother say, know Yehovah, for they all will know me from the least unto the greatest. To the least significant of them, which is me. I have a lot of Jewish blood mixed in me. That would make me the least of them. Unto the greatest of them, says Yehovah, for I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sins no more. So you say that the words of the prophets don't matter. You say that's Old Testament. Well, Paul said it too. That would be Hebrews 8. And he said it word for word. Verses 8 through 12. For finding fault with Israel, he said, behold, the days come, says not the Lord, but Yehovah, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Yehuda. Does that ring a bell? Do you not recognize that from the last, from Yeremiah 31? Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant. They broke his covenant. And were careless, says Yehovah. It doesn't say I regarded them not. It says they were careless. Why were they careless? Because they had the written word, but it was not written in their heart. This is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, says Yehovah, I will put my Torah in their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be that to them their Elohim, and they shall be to me a people. This is Paul. Every word that Yeremiah says, and you're telling me that the words of the prophets don't matter. You call that in your detesting of the truth, you call that the Old Testament. Doesn't matter anymore. Well, I got news for you. We will go to Revelation. That's about as New Testament as you can possibly get. Is it 7 verse 10 or is it 10 verse 7? I can't remember. 10 and verse 7. But in the days of the voice of the seventh messenger, when he is about to sound. Wait, watch this. When he is about to sound. When somebody is about to blow a trumpet, has he blown it yet? When somebody is about to blow a shofar, has he blown it yet? No. That means in the days of the sixth shofar sound. Read carefully, folks. In the days of the voice of the seventh messenger, when he is about to. What usage is delayed and linger? What? Read the words carefully. Paul said that they were careless with the words. Do not be careless with the words. But there's more. What was I trying to get at? The mystery of Yehovah will be fulfilled as he has declared to his servants the prophets in the Old Testament, that you Christians hate and despise so much. And if you hate and despise the Old Testament, how in the world are you going to be able to read this and understand what it's saying? You won't. And you won't be ready. And as I was reading this to you, I just discovered, because for a long time I was trying to find out exactly, and I just did. That's why you have got to read the words carefully and not be careless with the words, with the oracles of Yehovah.